Okay, good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. On Friday, we will be observing a fast day, a Asar B'Teves. And it's one of the more interesting fast days, perhaps one that we don't talk about often enough, but it's a fascinating day. And I wanted to share some of the unique aspects of Asar B'Teves that you don't find with other fast days. First of all of our fast days are based on a pasuk from Yirmiyahu. I'm sorry, from Zechariah. Zechariah tells us, and Pereches pasuk Yotes, Ko Amar Hashem Tzvakos, Tzom HaRavi'i, Tzom HaChamishi, Tzom HaShvi, Tzom HaAsiri, all these fast days. The fast of the 4th month, the 5th month, the 7th month, and the 10th month, we'll talk about what they are. Right. Eventually, these fast days that we are observing on all of these months, the 4th month, which is Shavas Tammuz, the 5th month is Tisha B'Av, the 7th month is Tzom Gedalia, and the 10th month is Asar B'Teves. All of these fast days will ultimately become days of rejoicing. So there's a machlokes in the Gemara between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shimon regarding these fast days, particularly Tzom Hasir, Asar B'Teves. Rabbi Akiva is of the opinion that on the 10th day of Teves, in the time of the first base of Mikdash, the city was besieged, the city was encircled. That's why we fast. It's the beginning of the end, so to speak. Rabbi Shimon says that the fast of the 10th month occurs on the 5th day of Teves, meaning the following year, when the people in Golus received news ultimately that the base of Mikdash was destroyed. So it took a year for the message to get it spread out throughout the Golus. And Machlokes, in terms of the sequence of events, historically they differ. It's a year apart. The 5th of Teves the following year, or the 10th of Teves before the destruction actually began, when the siege began. So it's a big machlokes, and we'll come back to this machlokes a little bit later on. No, is it the beginning of the Churban, or is it the end of the Churban? What are we commemorating on Asar B'Teves? Now, question number 2 is Asar B'Teves like every other Tanis Tzibur? Or as we have many, many fasts during the year, and the only one that's not mentioned here, by the way, is Tanis Esther. And that you have specifically in Megillas Esther to talk about. The Avudraham, a Talmud of the Balaturim, who was in the 14th century Spain, he makes a fascinating observation about Asar B'Teves. And he says that if Asar B'Teves should come out on Shabbos, we fast. We don't do that for any other fast day except for Yom Kippur. Why? Because regarding the siege of Yerushalayim, the pasuk in Yechezkel used the expression "be'etzem hayom hazeh," in the beginning of that day, the actual day itself, the Korban, and the etzem hayom hazeh also refers to Yom Kippur. So between the Yom Kippur etzem hayom hazeh and Asar B'Teves, so he says if it comes, he's the only one. There was a Rishon, Avudraham, and he says if it comes out on Shabbos, you fast on Shabbos. Huh? I understand that, but should it, before they fix the calendar, you would fast on Shabbos, which is a rather startling observation. The Shulchan Aruch says, I don't know where he gets this from. Where does he come up with a comment like that? I don't know where it comes from. Okay? The Netziv doesn't disregard the Avudrab's comment, but he says that the Etzem Hayom Hazeh by Yom Kippur implies that you have to start the fast before nightfall. So there's a halakha of Tosefes, adding on to the fast day Yom Kippur, which you only find. The Rambam says very clearly you don't fast on Shabbos. We'll come back to there's one fast where you do fast on Shabbos. We'll come back to that in a moment. Why does the Navi refer to the fast days by the months? Right? Some Ravid, some Chamish. Why does he do that? So he makes an observation, Minchas Chinuch, that they didn't establish these fast days on specific days, only during certain months, because there was a machlokes as to what the exact date. Again, people didn't have iPhones and didn't have calendars the way we have today, so there was some doubt as to specific days when these events took place. Asar b'teves, according to the Brisker Rav, is the exception, because it says be'etzem hayom hazeh. They knew exactly when the siege began. They knew exactly when the Churban took place. Okay. Now, what is the nature of a fast day? There are different types of fast days. There are fast days like of mourning, crying, Tisha B'Av. Interesting, Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur are not the same. Tisha B'Av is Avelus, whereas Yom Kippur, you might be crying because of the lack of tshuva that you might have. A different type of fast. There are Tanesim where you're allowed to eat. Interesting. There are partial fast days where a person can say, I'm not going to have my full meals, breakfast, lunch. I'll just have snacks during the day. That's also a type of fast day, which you don't see too often. And then you have a fast days of tshuva or bakasha. If a person can declare a fast day for himself, if he feels bad about something that he did, if he's praying for something, for refuah shlema, or for getting a job after the interview, a person can declare a fast day for tshuva or bakasha. You can also do a fast if you have a disturbing dream, a tanis chalom. And it's interesting, a tanis chalom, you're even allowed to do it on Shabbos. That's the only, other than Yom Kippur, that's the only, if you have a disturbing dream on a Thursday night, you can fast on Shabbos.
Why?
Good. Why? Okay, because it's interesting, because the fast day is beneficial. You are benefiting from it. It's not a deprivation. It's an actual benefit, the way the Chazal look at it. By fasting, somehow it'll mitigate whatever bad things appeared in that dream to you. At least that's what the Meforshim talk about. Public fast days, however, yeah. If you fast, do you have to fast another day? Okay, could be. A tashlum, okay, because you didn't enjoy Shabbos. Okay, but again, some of the Meforshim point out that by fasting, it does bring you a certain, I guess, I wouldn't say enjoyment, but a certain satisfaction that the chalom that you had might be somehow mitigated through your fast. So it's a positive, it's a beneficial aspect of that fasting.
You know, what you're saying is true. It doesn't say that because I was allowing you to do it, but there's still a penalty for doing that because you still disturb Shabbos.
Okay, because the penalty, because you take away from Shabbos. Yeah.
Did you say you had a bad dream on a Thursday night?
Or for Friday, whenever the dream took place. Usually Friday night. Yeah. Yeah, okay. The fast, it's an interesting question. Does the fast have to come immediately after the dream? So by allowing you to fast on Shabbos, the answer will probably be yes. So it will probably be a Friday night dream was very upsetting. So you wouldn't need all Shabbos long in order if it really upset you. Most of us, generally speaking, don't remember the dreams that we have. Unless it's really, really bad, and then you can, if it upsets you that much and you remember it, sometimes you have a very strong dream and you remember it, but then again, when you try to tell it over, 10 minutes later, you forgot. But if it upsets you that much, Chazal say you should fast. Asor b'teves, if it's a fast, according to some Mefarshim, if it's a fast of mourning, then you can't fast on Shabbos. Yet the Vudrab says, Asor b'teves, you do fast on Shabbos. So if you interpret it not as a fast of mourning, but as a fast of tshuva, in other words, we repent the fact that our sins caused the destruction of the first Beis HaMikdash, perhaps that might be why it would be allowed on Shabbos. And like a Tanis Chalom, when does it begin? When you wake up in the morning on Shabbos, you got a bad dream that night. So similarly, this is not the case on Tisha B'Av. It's a different halacha, but we still don't know the distinction between Asar B'Teves and the other fast days that start during the day. Asar B'Teves is only from morning until night, not like Yom Kippur and Tisha B'Av. So the Vudraham remains a problematic text because many people just don't understand where the Vudraham got this from. Shulchan Aruch says very clearly, Lo Yadina, we have no idea where he comes up with this. So putting that aside for the moment, Asar B'Teves, going back to the Machlokas, Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shimon in the Gemara, do we mourn the beginning of the destruction, the things that led up to the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, or the fact that it was destroyed in the end? And according to some Mefarshim, the reason that the Abudraham says you fast even on Shabbos, because it's the beginning of the process is more significant than the end of the process. Because if you didn't have a beginning, you wouldn't have an end, obviously. So you have a lot of different Mefarshim that talk about it. The Machlokes, Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Shimon, Mefarshim have a field day trying to explain the rationale for each one. But more important than that, there are other things that took place right around the same time period, the dates, not necessarily time, but for example, many of us are not aware, unless you study very carefully, on the 8th day of Teves, month of Teves, a significant month, on the 8th day of Teves, the Egyptian Emperor Ptolemy forced Chachamim to translate the Torah into Greek. What we now call the Septuagint, Targum HaShiva. And that day, according to the Shulchan Aruch, was considered a great day of tragedy when Chazal were forced to translate the word of Hashem into a foreign language. Because obviously, you have to change the literal translation if you translate it. And there are about 13 or 14 different places in Chumash where Chazal had to interpret the words and not translate it literally. And the amazing thing was that all of these men, the Gemara Megillah tells us there were 72 members of the Sanhedrin, and they were put in 72 different rooms in a hotel in the island of the Nile River, and each one wrote the exact same translation. Obviously using Torah Shebaal Peh. Because you can't, for example, how do you translate Bereshis? Bereshis bara Elokim. What does Bereshis mean? Normally, in the beginning. What does it mean, in the beginning? When God was creating the world in the beginning of time, before there was time, but however way you want, but it requires a perush. All the Chachamim interpreted it the same way. But the fact that it was translated is a day of sadness. On the 9th day of Teves, something happened. The Torah says, we don't know what. We don't know what it was. Something significant happened. We're not sure what. And on the 10th, Yerushalayim was besieged. The Taz points out that the 8th day is the yard site of Ezra HaSofer. All right. And we know this from the Piyutim on Asar B'Teves. That's the only source that we have. There's also, there are other events there. Going back to the other understanding of Asar Teves, on the 5th day of Teves in the following year, it took a year for the news of the Churban to reach the Golos. All right, there are a lot of different events there. Let me bring it up to contemporary times now. Very important discussion about Asar Teves. Following the Holocaust, following the Shoah, many groups felt that we have to have some type of memorial, some type of commemoration to recognize this terrible tragedy. And they wanted to proclaim a fast day of some sort or some type of commemoration. This is a problem. Do Chachamim today have the ability to create new days of commemoration or celebration? Do we have that authority? We, the Chachamim. And it's a fascinating machlokus that still goes on to this day. In 1949, the chief rabbinate, I guess bowing to pressure, announced that Asara B'Teves would be the official day to commemorate the Shoah, specifically for those people who didn't know when their parents were killed. Many people went to the concentration camps. You don't know when they were killed, or in some cases, even if they were killed, but usually they were. So if you don't know what date to observe as a yahrzeit, you take Asara B'Teves. That was 1949. Later on, the Knesset picked the 27th day of Nisan as Yom HaShoah. Now, there's two different bodies, the chief rabbinate and the Knesset. So, and Yom HaShoah has become, I would say, in most non-Haredi circles, Yom HaShoah has been commemorated all over the world. It's called Yom HaShoah v'Hagvura. That's the official name. And that has been commemorated as the memorial day for the Holocaust. The more traditional wing of Judaism would still accept Asar B'Teves, although even the Haredim, I don't recall reading anywhere that they make a big deal about Asar B'Teves commemorating the Shoah, even though that's when the chief rabbinate says to do it. I don't know if Hasidic Shtibelach observe Yom HaShoah on Asar B'Teves. I don't know if the Aguda recognize. They'll say the chief rabbinate, but then again, it's a separate discussion how much the Haredim hold from the chief rabbinate. They have their own chief rabbinate. Another discussion. The Chazon Ish, who died in 1935. It wasn't, well, actually, no, I'm sorry, he died later, 1953. He died 1953, that's when I got the numbers back. He wrote something which Rav Soloveitchik also agrees with. And this, where is it? Let's find it here. Yeah. Here's what he says. He says, the establishment of a fast for the community in perpetuity, Kviyas Tanis Doros, says it's a mitzvah d'Rabbanan, it's a rabbinic concept, mitzvah. Mashiyesh biyadenu, the fast days that we have today, all those that I mentioned before. Ubizman shahaya adayin nevuah. This is from the Nevi'im. The Nevi'im established these fast days. They commemorate these fast days. The eich no'is panenu dor shetov lo ashtika. How can we be chutzpahdik, where we should keep our mouths shut? Basically, he says. How can our generation, we have no Navi anymore, we have no Nevi'im. How can we proclaim a fast day when fast days are the province of Nevi'im? And Rasul Soloveitchik seems to hold the same thing, that we don't have the authority to establish new days. That's why he wasn't a big fan of Yom HaAtzmaut and Yom Yerushalayim, although he begrudgingly allowed the recitation of Hallel without a bracha, begrudgingly, but because that can be said for any major miraculous salvation of masses of Jews. But this machlokes still goes on to this very day. Asara B'Teves is the official commemoration day for the Shoah. That being said, I don't know how many people actually observe that. Now, there are some people who may observe Yortzeit for parents who they don't know when the parents died. That's certainly appropriate, and that's certainly in keeping with the Pesach of the Rabbanim. But commemorating Asara B'Teves, most people don't hear about Yom HaShoah programs taking place on Asara B'Teves. But that is the official day. This Friday is the official rabbinic sanctioned day for the Shoah. Again, whether it's the beginning or the end of the Churban, the Machlokas, the Bar of Shimon Rabbi Akiva plays into this as well. But definitely, it's when many Mefarshim, when they talk about the Shoah, they talk about Churban Europa, the terrible destruction that took place in Europe. So the word Churban is used there as well as it was for the Churban Beis HaMikdash. But it's not an official day of Tanis because we have no Navi to declare it so. So the Yom HaShoah that we observe today is not necessarily rabbinically sanctioned because it was established by the Knesset, which is not a rabbinic body. So Asara B'Teves is a very significant day in the calendar for a variety of reasons, whether it's the beginning of the Churban, whether it was the end of the Churban, whether it should be used for Yom HaShoah or not. It's still debated to this day. But Asara B'Teves is not one of the better known fast days, but hopefully we have a little more of an understanding as to what it's all about. So this Friday, at least when you fast, you have a little more of understanding of why we do it and what are the implications of Asara B'Teves. That's what I want to share with you. Any questions on that?
Have a meaningful fast.
Have a wonderful, meaningful fast, and
I also read that every year around this time we get judged if the base of English is over to be built.
we get judged. Who says that?
I don't remember who said it, but I get the source.
Rabbi some say.
No, but I get the source around this. On a certain case, we get judged every year. Worthy. The base of English.
Okay, so on Asara B'Teves, we get judged annually whether we are worthy to rebuild the base of English. It's a very pretty thought.
Relevant today.
Yeah.
Because we have the opportunity, the base of English to be rebuilt if we are doing the right thing.
Okay, well, it's historically fascinating. If Yitzchak Rabin and Moshe Dayan had not given back the Kotel and the whole base of Mikdash area back in 1967, what would have happened? Would they start rebuilding the base of Mikdash? Theoretical discussion, but unfortunately, what's done was done. Okay, have a great day, everybody.
Thank you, Wally.
Have a good day. Stay warm. It's cold out there.
Thank you, Ollie. Danke gesund.
Okay, take care, Howard. Rabbi sign of our